Then I'm like, oh, bro ain't from no hood. He just went against the whole city.
I would not diss a whole city, especially Inglewood.
Yeah, I ain't dissing the whole city.
On a handout, I gotta let him hold on. Know a lot of told her Inglewood, y'all condone it. I need to drop the 50.
It wasn't smart, man. I mean, I get it because that was an old Crip way of dissing Inglewood back in the day. You know what I mean? Because Inglewood is mainly a blood city. He got it from people before his time. Yeah, that wasn't nothing new. But I think his mistake was underestimating, the people he was beefing with.
It was looking like a good week for Daryl Caldwell, better known as LA rapper Drakeo the Ruler. But backstage on Saturday night, officials say he was stabbed in his neck while surrounded by a group and died of his injury.
Imagine beefing so hard that 60 to 100 gang members want you dead. Sounds wild, right? Well, that's exactly what happened to Drakeo the Ruler, someone many considered the king of LA. Drakeo had a reputation for being tied to the Crips, but he was also cool with some Bloods too. However, things took a nasty turn when he clashed with the IFGB, Inglewood Family Gangster Bloods. And when we say clashed, we mean Drakeo publicly bashed them whenever he could.
I said what I said, keep tagging all this and all that. First of all, keep saying all this. Oh, what about Kenny? What about YG? Not independent.
He even dropped a diss track called Ingleweird, flipping the name of the city Inglewood to diss not just the gang, but the entire city.
On a handout, I gotta let him hold on. Know a lot of told her Inglewood, y'all condone it. I need to drop the 50.
This move shocked a lot of people, even insiders who felt he was crossing the line and seriously underestimating his enemies.
Then I'm like, oh, bro ain't from no hood. He just went against the whole city.
I would not diss a whole city, especially Inglewood.
Yeah, I ain't dissing the whole city.
It wasn't smart, man. I mean, I get it because that was an old Crip way of dissing Inglewood back in the day. You know what I mean? Because Inglewood is mainly a blood city. He got it from people before his time. Yeah, that wasn't nothing new. But I think his mistake was underestimating, the people he was beefing with.
Sadly, as bold as Drakeo was, this kind of bravado didn't end well for him. His life came to a tragic and brutal end, in a way no one could have imagined. There's a lot more to this story, so let's dig deeper. December 18th, 2021 will forever be remembered as one of the darkest days in hip-hop history. It was supposed to be a night of celebration, a historic event at the Bank of California Stadium called Once Upon a Time in LA. The lineup was insane, featuring some of the biggest names in rap like Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent, 3 6 Mafia, YG, and Drakeo the Ruler, alongside a host of other major artists. The vibe was electric. Fans from all over the country came together, packing the venue to see their favorite artists. The energy was unmatched, with thousands in attendance turning up for what was set to be an unforgettable night. But no one could have predicted how tragically the night would end. At around 8:40 p.m., chaos erupted. Paramedics were called to the scene after reports of a stabbing at Exposition Park, the area surrounding the stadium. A man had been rushed to the hospital in critical condition. As news spread, the hip-hop community was left in shock when rumors began surfacing that the victim was none other than Drakeo the Ruler. Social media was flooded with speculation, and then as videos began to circulate, the rumors were confirmed.
A concert turned deadly in Los Angeles last night. A rapper known as Drakeo the Ruler was stabbed in the neck backstage during a music festival at Exposition Park.
Clips showed the aftermath of a brutal altercation, a brawl involving multiple people. The most chilling video, though, showed Drakeo lying unresponsive on the ground, blood pooling around him. Paramedics worked frantically, performing CPR, trying desperately to revive him. The scene was eerily silent. No screaming, no crying, just a tense, heavy silence as everyone watched, holding their breath, hoping for a miracle. But it wasn't to be. Hours later, doctors at the hospital declared Drakeo dead, his injuries too severe to survive.
It was looking like a good week for Daryl Caldwell, better known as LA rapper Drakeo the Ruler. But backstage on Saturday night, officials say he was stabbed in his neck while surrounded by a group and died of his injury.
The hip-hop world was devastated. This was yet another crushing loss, coming just days after Compton rapper Slim 400 was gunned down. Social media lit up with tributes from fans, artists, and even the concert organizer Snoop Dogg, who expressed his condolences and heartbreak over the tragedy. Drake also paid his respects online, reflecting on their past collaborations and the loss of yet another rising star in the rap game. The concert, understandably, was shut down just after 10 p.m., with police swarming the venue to investigate. Fans were left in shock, grappling with the senselessness of it all. Who was behind the attack? What had led to this brutal stabbing at a concert meant to bring people together? To answer these questions, we need to go back to the tensions, the feuds, and the choices that set the stage for this tragedy. Drakeo the Ruler's story starts in the 100S neighborhood of Los Angeles, where he grew up in a tight-knit but tough environment. Raised by a single mom, Drakeo shared a close bond with his younger brother Ralphie the Plug. Together, they found solace in music and formed the rap group Stink Team, along with their homies Catchy the Great, Sayso the Mac, Bambino, Good Finesse, and Young Bull. For Drakeo, music wasn't just a hobby, it was a lifeline. Inspired by legends like the Hot Boys, Lil Boozy, Webby, and Dipset, he dreamed of using rap to lift his family out of their circumstances. His early efforts paid off when he collaborated with DJ Mustard on the track Mr. Get Dough. The song went viral, racking up millions of views, and showed Drakeo the potential that music held for him.
When I grabbed it, oh Lord, I love being a joint, it's fantastic. Keeping it clean, you know he riding on stock.
From there, Drakeo never looked back. He poured his energy into his craft, dropping mixtapes like I Am Mr. Mosley 1 and 2 and So Cold I Do Am. His unique flow and innovative slang set him apart from other West Coast rappers. Drakeo wasn't just rapping, he was creating a whole new language that he and the Stink Team made their own. This originality earned him widespread respect in the LA rap scene, and it seemed like he was on the verge of breaking into mainstream success. But before he could fully realize his potential, the streets came calling. Drakeo grew up in a Crip-affiliated neighborhood, and most of the Stink Team were tied to the Crips as well. This naturally put them at odds with the Inglewood family Gangster Bloods, also known as IFGB, one of LA's oldest and largest blood sets. The tension between these groups created a dangerous backdrop for Drakeo's rise, and as his profile grew, so did the stakes. Tragedy struck the Stink Team on February 16, 2021, when Catchy the Great, a key member of the group, died in a freak accident. He was hit by a car while walking along Pacific Coast Highway.
After a deadly crash there, a person was fatally struck by a vehicle in the area of PCH and Porto Marina Way shortly before 11 o'clock last night.
The news devastated Drakeo, who took to Twitter to mourn his friend and collaborator. Other prominent figures in hip-hop media also expressed their condolences, acknowledging the loss of one of LA's most promising artists. However, it wasn't long before the internet started spinning rumors, as it often does. Speculation began circulating that Catchy's death might be tied to the ongoing beef between the Stink Team and IFGB. Drakeo wasn't about to let those rumors fester. He went live on Instagram to set the record straight, emphasizing that Catchy's death was an accident and had nothing to do with gang violence. But even as Drakeo tried to keep the peace, others were stirring the pot. Lil Deuce, a rapper with ties to Inglewood, took to Twitter to mock Catchy's death, even posting his exact location for anyone looking to confront him. This blatant disrespect lit a fire under Drakeo. He clapped back on social media, hurling slurs at anyone dissing Catchy and warning that anyone affiliated with Inglewood, whether they were from LA or not, was now a target for the Stink Team.
And what I don't give a where you from. I don't give a if you're from Alaska. None of that. You with you getting chipped.
Despite the devastating loss of Catchy the Great, Drakeo the Ruler didn't let the grief slow him down. In February 2021, he had one of the biggest rollouts of his career with the release of his Truth Hurts mixtape, which included a major collaboration with Drake. It was a huge milestone for Drakeo, solidifying his place as one of the most unique voices in West Coast rap. However, while his career was on the upswing, tensions in the streets were heating up. Things took a turn on March 8, 2021, when YG appeared on No Jumper for an interview. During the conversation, YG introduced members of his 400 Records label but also seemed to throw subliminal shots at Drakeo. While he didn't name names, YG made it clear that his crew wasn't about rap beef. They were about real street beef. He added that if it came down to it, his team would really get you.
I'm not finna be going out there doing no rap diss and cause like, if it's smoke, it's really smoke with us. We ain't playing, you know? All that rap beef and all that we not rap beefing, we really beefing. The homies gonna get you.
The words felt like a direct threat, and it didn't take long for Drakeo to respond. 3 days later, on March 11th, Drakeo reacted to the YG interview by previewing a new track on Instagram Live. The song included lyrics threatening to Swiss cheese a rapper if they stepped out of line again, a thinly veiled warning to YG.
mama named you Marquisha, we know your name. And this rap shit act like groupies, I don't want no friends.
But Drakeo didn't stop there. He took to his IG stories, posting several messages directed at YG. One of the posts called out YG for congratulating Bobby Shmurda on his release from prison while ignoring Drakeo's own release, which had been a significant moment for the LA rap scene. Drakeo's post suggested that YG wasn't supportive of up-and-coming artists in Los Angeles, claiming that it was now up to him to uplift the scene. In another post, Drakeo told YG to unfollow him on Instagram, a subtle flex to show the world that YG was still keeping tabs on him. Over the next few weeks, Drakeo continued his public back and forth with YG, even taking shots at other big names like Snoop Dogg and Boozy. He accused them of not being independent and claimed they hadn't beaten legal charges as severe as his own.
I said what I said. Keep tagging all this and all that. First of all, keep saying all this. Oh, what about Kenny? What about YG? Not independent.
Despite the growing tension, Drakeo stayed focused on his music. On May 13, 2021, he was seen hanging out with Drake following the success of their collaboration, which was a major highlight for the Stink team leader. But the positivity didn't last long. By the end of May, things took a darker turn when an Inglewood blood known as Baby Capone sparked outrage across Los Angeles. Capone defaced a mural of Nipsey Hussle outside the Marathon clothing store where Nipsey had tragically lost his life. He tagged IFGB and his own name over Nipsey's face, an act of blatant disrespect that shocked the city.
You gotta come really, you see that? You gotta come really do that to me. You can't write that on the wall. Capone.
Nipsey was a beloved figure in LA, and this act of vandalism crossed a line for many, adding fuel to the fire. Capone went live on Instagram with another Blood Indian Red Boy, laughing about the incident and dissing other hoods. The backlash was immediate. Drakeo would speak out against Baby Capone and the entire IFGB crew. On June 1st, Drakeo went live on Instagram taunting his Inglewood rivals and claiming they didn't last long in the streets. He pinned a comment during the live asking, "Who wants to fight Drakeo from Inglewood?" and bragged about his track record in jailhouse fights. He claimed that the Stink team had beaten up Inglewood members in prison, calling out specific individuals like Red Bull. Drakeo's Instagram lives during this period were filled with bravado. He even said he didn't need a gun to handle his enemies, stating he loved fighting so much he'd happily square up with his ops at events like Rolling Loud. His confidence was undeniable, but his obsession with jailhouse politics and his enemies in Inglewood was becoming increasingly dangerous. The violence in LA continued to escalate. On July 8, 2021, Indian Red Boy, the same blood who had laughed with Baby Capone about defacing Nipsey's mural, was emdered in a shocking and highly publicized way. He was on Instagram Live with Capone when he was shot multiple times. Viewers watched in horror as Indian Red Boy bled out on camera, gasping for air in his final moments. Meanwhile, Drakeo kept dropping music, arguably some of the best of his career. Then word began spreading of an upcoming collaboration featuring Inglewood rappers AZ Chike and Rucci alongside Louisiana legend Lil Boozy. The news didn't sit well with Drakeo, who took the opportunity to call out Boozy publicly for working with his ops. Drakeo didn't hold back, saying that Boozy had been picking the wrong people to collaborate with, and that he'd lost all respect for him. To be fair, Drakeo had seemingly been throwing shots at Boozy ever since he got out of jail. One of his first songs post-release was titled Lil Boozy, where he boasted about his legal charges being more serious than Boozy's infamous Emder charges. The tension boiled over when AZ Chike responded to Drakeo's comments, accusing him of trying to blackball him in the rap game. Chike added that Boozy didn't care about Drakeo's opinion, a sentiment Boozy himself later echoed during an interview with DJ Vlad. Boozy made it clear that Drakeo's beefs had nothing to do with him and wouldn't influence who he chose to work with.
You know, so he got in his feelings, you know, I don't think that hate me. That if I raised you on music, now you hate me because I did a song with your ops, that don't go like that, bro.
But if Drakeo was upset about Boozy working with his enemies, it was nothing compared to what he was about to unleash on the LA rap scene. On August 20th, 2021, Drakeo previewed a new song on Instagram Live titled Ingleweird. The track was a direct diss aimed at the entire city of Inglewood. Fans flooded the comments, daring Drakeo to shoot the music video in Inglewood if he was really about that life. Drakeo, never one to back down, warned his enemies not to test him. When the full version of Ingleweird dropped, it was clear that Drakeo wasn't holding anything back. The song was packed with scathing bars, mocking Inglewood, its residents, and its rappers. Drakeo declared that he'd turn all of California against Inglewood, calling its natives weenies and accusing them of being snitches. He called out Rucci, ridiculing him as broke, and AZ Chike, questioning his street credibility and mocking him for joining a gang at 25. Drakeo even threw in a jab about Chike and Rucci's collaboration with Boozy, pointing out that their track Hood Rat hadn't even hit 400,000 views on YouTube. One of the most shocking lines in the song appeared to reference an Inglewood member named Munchie who had been shot in the head and left blind. Drakeo rapped about dropping 50 on a blind person, seemingly alluding to putting a bounty on Munchie's head.
Know a lot of told a nigga, well, y'all condone it. I just dropped 50 on a blind, he ain't see it coming.
The diss track wasn't just a lyrical attack. It felt like an all-out declaration of war against the entire city of Inglewood. The Ingleweird video, which premiered on September 7, 2021, only fueled the fire. Drakeo's fans praised his audacity, but the song also drew the attention of the police. Just one day after the video's release, Drakeo was arrested while riding in the back of an Uber. The entire incident was captured on Instagram Live as Drakeo, visibly frustrated and confused, questioned how the cops knew he was in the car. His young son was also in the Uber, making the situation even more tense.
In the Uber, bro, to pick up my son, bro. Literally.
5 out of 1. Have all units respond.
My son is in the car, bro. This is crazy, bro.
Drakeo was eventually pulled out of the vehicle and taken into custody. Speculation swirled online, with many assuming he'd been caught with another firearm. After posting bail, Drakeo went live on Instagram again, accusing his enemies of snitching on him to the police. He doubled down on his claims that the Inglewood crew was behind his latest legal trouble. It was around this time that fans began to express serious concern for Drakeo's well-being. On the Callibanging subreddit, a community dedicated to discussions about California gang politics, a fan made a sobering observation about Drakeo's increasingly toxic behavior. The user suggested that this very behavior might lead to his downfall. They pointed out that Drakeo had more support in Los Angeles than he even realized, but his relentless focus on gang beefs was sabotaging his own career. Instead of riding the momentum of his Drake collaboration and focusing on building his legacy, Drakeo seemed more intent on feeding into street politics, a dangerous game with deadly stakes. In the comment section, some fans speculated that Drakeo's lean addiction or the PTSD he likely suffered from his time in solitary confinement were clouding his judgment. A few even went as far as to predict that if he stayed on this destructive path, he wouldn't make it to see 2022. In hindsight, those predictions turned out to be eerily accurate. When Drakeo dropped Ingleweird, he essentially signed his own death certificate, but at the time, it may have been hard for him to see that reality through the haze of his addiction and the pressures surrounding him. Naturally, Inglewood wasn't going to let the diss track slide without a response. Thankfully, at first, the retaliation came in the form of music rather than violence. Drakeo, however, didn't let up on his mocking. On August 27th, he took to Instagram, trolling his enemies once again. In one particularly inflammatory post, he wore sunglasses and pretended to be blind, calling it the Munchie Bee Challenge, a direct shot at his rival Munchie, who had been left blind after being shot. Fans on Callibanging were convinced that Drakeo was digging his own grave with these antics. Many wished someone would step in and talk some sense into him, but by this point, the line had been crossed. For Drakeo and the Stink team, there seemed to be no turning back. Then, on September 16th, 2021, Drakeo made yet another appearance on No Jumper. This time, his demeanor was even more brazen than before. He started the interview by stating that he was a completely different person from the last time he sat down with Adam 22. He admitted that during his previous interview, he was fresh out of solitary confinement and still struggling with the mental health challenges that came with it. But now, Drakeo declared, he was a cocky millionaire ready to hurt his enemies' feelings.
It's different now, though. I'm a millionaire now. It's kind of different. I think that's what they're mad about.
Right.
Yeah, I heard people like, yeah, he keeps posting how much money he's making. Yeah, you're not making anything from your music, so I'm going to keep doing it. You know, because everybody was laughing when I was in jail.
His bold words didn't sit well with all of his fans. On Callibanging, some users criticized what they called Drakeo's arrogant street god persona. They expressed frustration, noting that he had been given a rare second chance at life after beating a death penalty case and a life sentence. Yet here he was, diving headfirst back into the treacherous world of LA gang politics. Many fans felt that he was squandering his opportunity to focus on his music and legacy, instead opting for a path that could only end in tragedy. By this point, the wheels were in motion, and and it seemed like nothing could stop the collision course Drakeo was on. Despite the brewing tension between the Stink team and Inglewood, Drakeo still tried to keep his focus on his music and career. Through September and October, he and his crew were busy performing on their Long Live the Great tour, a tribute to their fallen friend and collaborator, Ketchy the Great. The tour was a moment for reflection and celebration, and it gave Drakeo an opportunity to connect with his fans in a meaningful way. One of the tour's highlights was Drakeo's performance on December 12, 2021, at LA's Rolling Loud Festival. This was a massive opportunity for him, a chance to showcase his talent in front of tens of thousands of fans. For someone who had survived so much, from beating a death penalty case to enduring years of solitary confinement, this moment was a testament to his resilience. But tragically, this performance would be Drakeo's last.